Hello. In this video, I show you how to convert a physical Linux machine to a virtual machine running on VMware ESXi using two methods. I will convert a machine running Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. The first method of conversion involves using VMware Virtual Machine Converter installed on another Windows machine. A network connection must be established between the source physical Linux machine, the Windows machine with the converter, and the ESXi host. First, make sure the SSH server is installed on the source physical Linux machine. Install the SSH server with the command apt install open SSH server. The SSH server has already been installed on my Linux machine. I just update it and keep the existing configuration. Edit the SSH server configuration file to ensure that a user can access the SSH server using a username and password. vim/etc/ssh/sshd_config. Add or edit the line to have password authentication yes. Save the configuration settings and quit the text editor. You can check the SSH server status with the command service SSH status. Restart the SSH server to apply the configuration changes. Service SSH restart. Check the IP address of the source physical Linux machine. You will need this IP address to configure a job in VMware Converter. The IP address of my physical Linux machine is 192.168.101.212. Open the Windows machine. Check whether the SSH connection to the physical Linux machine works. Open PuTTY, the SSH client. Note that you can download this SSH client for free from the official website. Enter the IP address and port number of the physical Linux machine and click Open. Enter a username and password of the account available on the physical Linux machine. Check whether you can get root privileges using sudo. VMware Converter will need these privileges. In my case, the SSH connection and sudo are working properly. Install VMware vCenter Converter Standalone if you have not installed it yet. I use VMware vCenter Converter Standalone version 6.6. The installation process is straightforward. Check the available options and click Next to continue. Usually, the default installation options are applicable. Use local installation. You can deselect the checkbox if you don't want to send statistics to VMware. Hit Finish and run VMware Converter. VMware Converter is installed and open. Connect to VMware vCenter server or the ESXi host and check the free space on data stores to store the converted machine. Make sure you have enough free space. Remember the IP address of vCenter server or ESXi host. You will need to enter this IP address in the destination configuration. Go back to VMware vCenter Converter and create a new job. Click Convert Machine. Select source type. Powered on, as the source Linux machine is powered on. Select Remote Linux Machine in the drop-down list. Specify the powered on machine parameters. Enter the IP address of the source physical Linux machine. Enter a username to connect to the Linux machine via SSH, user1 in my case. Enter the user's password. Click Next to continue. If you see a security warning, click Yes and connect. There is another error. Unable to query the live Linux source machine. Make sure that you can run sudo without entering a password when logged in. Let's fix this. We need to edit the sudo configuration file. Edit etc sudoers for this purpose. Run vsudo to open the needed configuration file. Add the following line in the end of the configuration file. User1 all equal all no password, all. All write the changes to the configuration file and exit the text editor. Go back to VMware Converter and try again. Click Next. Done. Now, configure the options for the destination system. The destination type is VMware Infrastructure Virtual Machine. It means that VMware vSphere, based on ESXi hosts, is the destination platform and not VMware Workstation. Enter the IP address of the destination vCenter server or ESXi host. I'm using an ESXi host as the destination in this example. The IP address of our destination, ESXi host, is 192.168.101.31. Enter the destination IP address of the ESXi server of vCenter in the server field. Enter the username and password for the account with administrative privileges. Click Next. If you see a security warning, click Ignore and Continue. Enter a name for the destination virtual machine that will be used after conversion. I'm going to use Ubuntu 24 Converted as the name. You can see items available in your VMware vSphere infrastructure, such as virtual machines, hosts, clusters, etc. Click Next. Configure the destination location. Select an ESXi host and data store to place the converted machine. You can select a data store in the drop-down list. Select the virtual machine version for the destination VM. Configure the migration, that is, conversion, options. Select Data to copy and click Edit. You can select volumes to copy if you don't want to copy all disks and volumes. You can specify the destination size, for example, the actual size of stored data, or the maximum size of the existing disk. Click Advanced to open the advanced options. Go to the Destination Layout tab. Thick provisioning is selected by default. Select Thin provisioning in the drop-down menu to save storage space on the ESXi data store. Leave this option selected. Create Optimized Partition Layout. In the Devices section, you can set the amount of virtual memory, the number of processors and CPU cores for a virtual machine. In the Network section, you can choose the virtual network to which you want to connect each virtual network adapter of the VM. In the Advanced options, you can configure post-conversion options, such as VM power state. Leave the checkbox selected to reconfigure the destination virtual machine. As the VMware converter uses a helper VM to convert a running physical Linux machine to a virtual machine, you should check the helper VM network configuration. I choose to obtain the IP configuration via DHCP for IPv4 and disable IPv6. Review the conversion parameters for the Linux machine. If everything is correct, click Finish to run the job. The conversion job is starting. As you can see, the status is waiting for the destination virtual machine to boot up as the converter helper server. This status hasn't changed for a while. Let's check what's going on. I open VMware Host Client and connect to my ESXi host. Open the list of virtual machines. The Ubuntu 24 converted VM is created and running. If I click the VM console to open the image on the virtual monitor, I can see the error. Operating system is not found. VMware Converter configured a VM with incorrect boot options by default. We can fix this error. The VM must use the ISO image located in the VMware vCenter converter installation directory. Copy the converter helper vmiso file to a data store of the destination ESXi host. Select the needed data store for the destination ESXi host in VMware Host Client or VMware vSphere Client. Open a data store browser and specify a directory to store this ISO image file for the initial VM boot. I'll upload the ISO file to the directory of my destination VM. Select the needed directory, click Upload, browse to the file, and click Open. Wait until the ISO file is uploaded. The ISO file has been successfully uploaded to the ESXi data store. Next, we have to edit the VMware Converter configuration file in the XML format. Go to the directory with the VMware Converter XML configuration files on the Windows machine. Open the Converter Worker XML configuration file in a text editor to edit the configuration of the worker service component. Look for the Helper ISO Data Store directory option. As you can see, this configuration option is empty by default. Specify the directory on the ESXi host where you have uploaded the helper vmiso boot image file. Don't rename the converter helper vmiso file uploaded to the ESXi data store. Enter the directory path without mentioning the ISO file in this configuration option. Check the path carefully. That's data store 50 Ubuntu 24, converted in my case. The format is data store name directory 1 directory 2. Add this path to the configuration line of the XML file. Save the changes to the XML configuration file and close the text editor. Go to VMware Converter, stop the frozen job and run the conversion job once again. Close VMware Converter and restart VMware Converter services, and first of all, the worker service. Open the Computer Management snap-in. Go to Services, find the VMware Converter services, and restart them for the configuration changes to take effect. Close the Services snap-in and Computer Management. Run VMware vCenter Converter Standalone once the services have restarted. Create a new conversion job with the same settings as before. Review the settings and click Finish. The conversion job is starting. Note that you can also duplicate the previous conversion job to the new one. Let's check what's happening with the destination VM on the ESXi host. Go to Virtual Machines and select the destination VM. Click the destination VM to see the details. The VM has successfully booted from the helper ISO image. As you can see in the log, VMware Converter has successfully connected to the Converter helper server on the VM. The converter is partitioning virtual disks. Formatting the destination partitions. Starting to clone the volume on the source physical Linux machine. Wait until the conversion process is finished. The conversion process has finished. Check the converted VM on the destination ESXi host. Refresh the page. Start the converted VM. The converted machine running Ubuntu 24 was converted successfully and is working properly. Install VMware tools on the Linux guest operating system if not installed yet. apt get install open VM tools. To check the version of installed VMware tools, use the command VMware Toolbox cmdv. The version of VMware tools is 12.4.5 in my case. The VMware Tools version is also displayed in the general information about the VM in the web interface. The conversion of a physical Linux machine to a virtual machine of the VMware ESXi format was completed successfully. This was one method of converting a Linux machine. If you don't have a Windows machine or VMware vCenter converter, there's a second method that you can use. Before I proceed, let me quickly tell you about NAKIVO backup and replication, and how it can help you protect both your Linux and VMware VMs. NAKIVO backup and replication is a comprehensive data protection solution that you can use to protect all your workloads from a single pane of glass, whether it's VMware, Proxmox, Hyper-V, Nutanix, physical servers, and NAS devices, or Microsoft 365. Backups can be protected against cyber threats like ransomware with immutability and encryption. Once a backup is created, you have multiple instant recovery options. You can learn more about the solution by going to www.nakivo.com. Let's get back to our second method. The source machine is the same in the second example. I'm using Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. In this workflow, I'm going to use the DD utility to create a disk image of the Linux system. Then, I'll convert it to the VMDK virtual disk of the VMware Workstation format. Finally, this disk will be converted to the ESXi format. Make sure that you have enough free disk space on another disk attached to the source Linux machine. This disk must not be a system disk, but it must have enough free space. That is, more than the size of the system disk. Open Console, Terminal, on the source Ubuntu Linux machine. Get the root privileges using sudo. Check the free and use disk space on the storage devices and partitions attached to this Linux system. My system disk is dev SDA, and the root partition is dev SDA2. My secondary disk that can be sued to save a disk image is dev SDB, mounted to Media User 1 data. Let's use the built-in Linux data duplicator utility called DD. Note that you can find all the commands and steps in our blog post linked under this video. If equal dev SDA is the input file, that is the entire physical disk of equal media. User1 data SDA.image is the path for the output image. File BS equal 8 megabytes is block size 8 megabytes. This option boosts speed since DD copies data by using 512-byte portions of data by default. Conv equals sync comma. No error is used to prevent DD from stopping on an error when reading data from a source disk or file. Status equal progress is the option to display the task progress in the console for more convenience. Press Enter to run the command. Wait until the disk image is created. The image has been created. Check the contents of the destination directory with the list command. lsal media user 1 data. The SDA image file is present. The image size matches the size of the source disk. Next, I need to convert this raw image to the virtual disk image of the VMware VMDK format. Use the qemu-img tool on any Linux machine for this purpose. You can update the repository tree with a pt get update. Install the qemu system package. The utility has been installed. Let's go to the directory where the raw image is stored. cd media, user1, data. Convert the raw image from the img format to the VMDK format. Now the disk images have been converted to the VMDK format and are ready to open in VMware Workstation. My converted virtual disk file is SDA, VMware VMDK. However, I can import this virtual disk to the ESXi host and convert it to the ESXi format from the Workstation format. As an alternative to exporting a VM to OVA from VMware Workstation for importing a VM to an ESXi host, I can use vmkfstools, the command line ESXi utility. The virtual disk and descriptor are stored as a single file in the Workstation format. On ESXi, a virtual disk and its descriptor are stored as two separate files, flat VMDK, and VMDK. Let's connect to the ESXi host. Upload the VMDK virtual disk image file in the workstation format to the ESXi data store. Open a data store browser and go to the directory where you want to store the VMDK file. Let's create a temporary directory and upload the file to this directory. Select a directory, click Upload, choose a file and click Select to start uploading. Wait until the file is uploaded. The file has been uploaded to the ESXi data store. Create a new directory to be used as the VM directory for the converted, imported, virtual machine. My directory is called Ubuntu 24 conv2. The VM directory must be located in the root directory of a data store. Connect to the ESXi host via SSH from the source Linux machine. Enter the root password to connect to the ESXi host. Go to the directory where the VMDK file is located. I will convert this file to the ESXi format. CD vmfs volumes. Data store 50 temp. Convert this VMDK virtual disk of the workstation format to a thin provisioned virtual disk of the ESXi format. Use vmkfstools for this purpose. Press Enter to run the command. Make sure that you have enough free space on the data store you use. Wait until the virtual disk image file is converted. The virtual disk conversion process is finished. Let's check the converted virtual disk files in the ESXi format. I can see two new files that represent the VMDK virtual disk in the ESXi format. sda-new-flat.vmdk and sda-new.vmdk are the virtual disk file and its descriptor file, respectively. Copy the two files of the converted virtual disk to the directory that was created for the new converted VM. I can use the web interface of VMware host, client or vSphere client to copy the files. You can also use the console interface via SSH. Go to the VM directory and check the files of the virtual disk that was converted and copied. A virtual disk with the Linux system and the virtual disk descriptor are ready to use for the destination VM. Create a new virtual machine and attach the converted virtual disk to this VM. Go to Virtual Machines and click Create/Register VM. Enter a virtual machine name. The name is Ubuntu 24 conv2 for my VM. Specify VMware compatibility, guest OS family, and guest OS version. As I'm converting a machine with Ubuntu Linux x64 installed, I'll select Ubuntu 64-bit. Click Next to continue. Select the storage where to place the VM files. Customize the settings of the VM. Delete the hard disk created by default. Then, click Add Hard Disk and select the existing virtual disk. Browse to the virtual disk that is converted to the ESXi format for the migration of the Linux machine. That's sda-new.vmdk in my example. Click Select. Specify the amount of memory, processors, CPU cores, and other parameters. I use BIOS to boot a virtual machine. Click Next to continue. You are ready to complete. Review settings and click Finish. A virtual machine has been created. Power on the virtual machine created by converting a physical Linux machine. I can see the login screen. I can see the Ubuntu desktop. The migration of the Linux machine is successfully completed. Install VMware tools on the guest OS if not installed. We have successfully finished the P2V migration of Linux from a physical machine to a virtual machine using two methods. And this concludes our video. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to catch new uploads. You can also visit the NAKIVO website to download a free trial version of NAKIVO Backup and Replication and try the solution in your own environment for 15 days.